Welcome to the show Gold Squadron Gays. It's the podcast where two Star Wars loving gays talk about and review their favorite Star Wars content while also being gay as hell. I'm your host, Bradley Brower.
I'm your other host, Charles Rogers, and this is a little weird because we changed our minds at the last minute. Again, because we are gay men, that is what we are wont to do. So last week you heard our Bad Batch Episode 4 coverage, and you might be thinking to yourself, wait, are they stopping? Are they ceasing their Bad Batch coverage? What is going on here? No, we're not. We're trying something a little different because we are still trying to catch up. So we are in the middle of the Bad Batch. But we wanted to put our Acolyte Zero out there before the show came out. So we're doing this, and then you guys are going to hear Episode 5 of the Bad Batch next week, where I also talk about the Acolyte, and specifically the Light Whip. But we wanted to go ahead and do our Episode 0 and get it out, and then we'll return to Episode 1 after we finish the Bad Batch, our Bad Batch finale. We will go straight into... Well, we'll do our Bad Batch retrospective, and then we'll do our Episode 1. All of this to say, surprise, we're talking about the Acolyte this week. It's a whole episode because we couldn't not do it.
We had to. I mean, it was getting to the point where we were just getting insufferable, only because they have ramped up the social media, buzz on the Acolyte so hard. It's all I see on my For You page. It's all I see on my Instagram, YouTube everywhere. And I'm like, I need to talk about this show before I go crazy.
Imagine them actually marketing the fucking show. By the way, forgot to mention up at the top, Bradley sounds weird because he's still in the hotel room. Okay, that's out of the way. Imagine them marketing the show.
Right?
Doing actual marketing, telling us things. They've actually told us very little about what the plot is.
I love how we know nothing about the plot, but we've seen a fuck ton of stuff. I love how it's so random, and it's just you have no idea what it is. And all we've seen is one tiny force food fight that's in that.
We've seen two. Oh, the full fight, but yes.
The full fight is in the preview.
No,
yeah.
We've seen two. We've seen two. There's the one there was the one between Carrie-Anne Moss and Amanda Stenberg that was on the back of the Phantom Menace re-release. And then they released the one between Amanda Stenberg and Lee JUNG-JAE.
Soul, yes.
Got it. So that one actually went up on their YouTube channel. So actually, we've now seen two. And the one between May and Soul is fucking awesome.
I love it.
Oh my god, that one I watched and I was like, oh, I love everything about this. I love all of the marketing of this show has been really good. Just
so good.
Really good without even telling us really what's in the show.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're at the point where we've gotten the full cover art / poster art or whatever for the show. And they've shown all these. Now they're starting to do the little clips where they do here's a 30-second clip from obviously the first two episodes.
Right.
And we're getting information. I'm we're so close to the premiere date. I'm just I don't want any more. If I feel they're about to give us a second trailer that's going to reveal the plot, and I don't want them to do that. And
by the way,
this close.
For context, kids, we're recording this. Well, not kids, because kids should not be listening to this show.
Please don't listen to this.
Please don't. If you're under the age of 18, please turn us off. We're not for you. We are recording this on May the 27th, so we are 8 days out from the Acolyte coming out. But we wanted to get this out a week from today, so if they released a trailer that told us the entire plot, we didn't see it.
We didn't see it. That's right.
Oh my goodness. This show, everything I've seen about the marketing for this show is just mind-blowingly. Because I remember I watched the trailer, and then I came home and I watched the trailer on my TV, and then I watched the trailer again on my TV, when they released the full trailer that they released for it. Although they released a ton of different trailer cuts for it.
Right.
I think we need to talk about the cast of this show, Bradley.
Okay, let's do it. I have the full cast list right in front of me, so
I know
can go
you
down
do.
the list.
I know you do. And I badly want to talk about the things that are in the trailer, but I also badly want to talk about the cast of this show. So we're going to do the cast of the show. Do you want to tell us briefly overview? Because undoubtedly when we get into covering the show, we'll do a deep dive. Who's playing who?
Okay, so we'll start with Amanda Stenberg is playing May, a former Padawan learner who is now a dangerous warrior.
And Bradley's just reading from the Wikipedia there.
Right. So if it's wrong and
Our
you
source
watch
is
the
just
premiere,
Wikipedia here.
yeah, yeah. So if it's wrong, I mean, they have little notations where I don't know. I guess they're getting it from different websites, but
It's the sourcing. Do you
yeah,
not remember your like college papers, Brad? Did you not take? Well, I guess you took an English class at a different campus than I did.
that's true. I took it
You
at
did
an
not have
actual
as intense
thing.
of a.
Yeah,
Oh, that's right. I keep forgetting you went to like a real college for
I
like.
did. I went to two real colleges before I went to our final college.
Yes.
So I went
I
to
keep,
like generic college before, like twice
you
before
went
I
to
went to.
actual college.
Yeah, I know. I'm like
Wow.
one of the regular kids.
Wow. You've had such a storied and interesting career.
I should write a book, obviously.
You should write a book at some point.
Yeah,
Yeah, those are citation notes, honey. Those
got
are
it. Yeah.
footnotes at the bottom of the page.
Although I don't know
That's
how
how
much I
citations
trust
work.
the citations because I'm looking at them and a lot of them are comicbook.com. So um, take all of what I'm saying with a grain of salt because I know that they may not be the best to source. Just for
They must
obvious
be
reasons.
sourcing primary sources within the comicbook.com article. I don't know. I'm not going to bother to look.
Sure.
The point is, double check your sources at all times, kids, including us. But Amanda Stenberg, every time I see Amanda Stenberg at like a press event or they're at like a convention or something, they're like the biggest fucking Star Wars fan because they're always like dressed up in some cosplay or some Star Wars inspired outfit. And
Was
I'm
it
like,
the Padme look that we
the
saw? That was
Padme
the
look,
first one?
they did the
Oh,
Padme look
chef's kiss.
at Celebration.
Yes.
So I'm just super excited for that. Who else? Who else? Come on,
Sure.
Bradley. Who's the next person on the list?
Going down the list, Lee JUNG-JAE as Sol, a respected Jedi Master, and apparently Lee learned English for the role.
Yep, because he is South Korean, I want to say.
Correct.
Let me double check to make sure I get this
think
right.
so.
He is South Korean.
Yeah.
And he is most famous for being in Squid Game.
Right. He's the main character in Squid Game. So there you
Let
go.
me tell you a story, Bradley. So I know that I shouldn't do this because it's not good for my mental health.
Yeah.
But when I do see an Acolyte post, I do go to the comment section
Sure.
because I hate
You're
myself.
unwell. Right.
I'm unwell. I'm deeply unwell. And just say the amount of comments on some of the latest videos, like they did a featurette with just him, the amount of comments like, they got the fucking Squid Game guy for this? Like, I'm gonna watch this just for the Squid Game guy. And have you watched the behind the scenes featurette with just him?
Yes, where he's talking about
He's so excited to do this. He's like visibly vibrating.
right. He can't believe that he's in a Star Wars.
That's
Like,
his
he's just
direct
like,
quote. He's like, I can't believe I'm in a Star Wars.
I love it.
I love this guy. And the early buzz that I got from the people who attended the Acolyte premiere, who weren't me.
Right. Thanks, Lucasfilm.
Thanks for that. But for the early buzz I heard is that Soul shines in these episodes, these early episodes.
Next up, we have Manny Jacinto. Is that how you say it?
I think it's
Jacinto.
Jacinto?
I don't want to say that wrong because I feel like we're gonna say it
Jacinto.
Okay.
It's Jacinto, according to Wikipedia.
Up next is Manny Jacinto as Quimir, a former smuggler who now lives a life of leisure.
I cannot believe they got fucking Jason for the good place to be in this.
Did you see the featurette well, I don't know if it was a featurette or if it was just like a behind the scenes. It was him and he was just like doing a bit from the good place, but he was
where
he's
he's reading the
he's reading the line.
comment?
Yeah.
Where he's doing the Jason bit. Yeah. I love this guy as an actor. I think he's fucking great. 2, this man is so hot.
I'm so excited to see him in this because like I also like I don't know we obviously know nothing about the character, so I'm like, is he gonna play it Jason in Star Wars or is he gonna play
he's
completely
narrating
different?
part of the trailer and it sounds different. Like he sounds like super disillusioned and disaffected. You remember the shot of him in the trailer and he's looking like all scruffy?
Yeah, he looked like
and put
he's
upon.
Not put together.
Yeah, that's so hot to me. I love a man whose life looks like it's falling apart. And granted, he could be in disguise in that, but still, I'm not going to be normal about this character. We all remember well, Bradley doesn't remember because I've shielded him from it, but listeners will remember how I feel about Axel Greylark. I love a man who's down on his luck.
Right? And also, I think like I'm trying not to be like too like I don't want to make too many guesses about the show because I don't want to like ruin it for myself, but I also kind of feel like I vaguely know what's happening and I don't know if I'm spoiling it for myself, but I don't know. I don't know if that sits right with me. His character doesn't seem to fit in the vibe of the rest of the show, so I'm thinking it's a red herring, unfortunately.
Well, he's going to turn out to be Darth Teeth.
Oh,
have you heard that term, Darth Teeth?
Is that what you're calling him?
I stole that from somebody else. Somebody told me that. Somebody told me people are referring to in the trailers. There's a mysterious like masked figure who, in the first trailer that came out, we just saw the red lightsaber, and now on the poster. And then there's also been featurettes showing this character. It's this Sith Lord who's got this like helmet on, but the helmet's got like a Cheshire grin on it with a bunch of like metal teeth. So the helmet is just all black with like this giant wild fucking Joker smile on it and these metal teeth. It's the creepiest fucking thing I've ever seen. Like, I love this so much, but people are calling him Darth Teeth.
I love that. I did not know that was a term that was being
Darth
used.
Teeth. So Manny Jacinto, that's my guess, is he's Darth Teeth.
I love it. Next up, we have Daphne Keane as Jackie Lon, Soul's young Padawan.
Yeah, they just handed X-23 a lightsaber. Like, that was Leslie Headland's stated intention here.
I love her so much. I love the design. What's the species called again? She's playing an alien character.
Yeah, it's from Return of the Jedi. Let me look at. This is the thing Charles didn't research. She's a Thelan human hybrid. We haven't really seen a lot of Thealans in like for a while. I don't think. Let's see where they've actually turned up visually. They're in the Clone Wars, Phantom Menace, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Revenge of the Sith. They popped up a little bit, but not really in any prominence. Most famously, they're in Return of the Jedi.
Correct. It's
One
the
of the
backup
dancers.
dancer.
One of the dancers. Also prominent in Star Wars Resistance, apparently.
Oh, okay. Well, I have seen though that this particular character, Jackie Lon, is a hybrid. So she's half human and she's half whatever this species is.
Thelan.
So
Thelan.
So she's half Thelan, half human. So that means her feet are normal, is what the whole point of that was, I guess.
Sure, if you care about that sort of thing, which I'm sure somebody on the internet cares about that sort of thing.
Well, I think the original ones, they have like almost like elephant looking feet. So I feel like that would have been a struggle bus to figure out costume wise for this character. So they were like, let's just make her.
Well, also, if you look at the makeup's less prominent than the one in Return of the Jedi. And for a main character, they want to do. I'm sure they probably don't want to do another Ahsoka where it's just all makeup all the time.
Right. And it's also, they don't want to do complicated makeup because I'm sure like that's going to take a long time to put her in the makeup. And if she doesn't have like a ton of screen time, I feel like they're going to be like, well, why are we doing this for someone who's not necessarily a main character? I mean, it seems that she might be very prominent in the show, but I don't know if she's going to be as like featured as Amandla or Lee Jung. So I just feel like it's one of those things.
Have you ever watched, you've probably never done this, have you ever watched the behind the scenes footage from the Lord of the Rings trilogy?
I am not that big of a nerd, no.
Okay, I am and have watched it multiple times. And they do talk about in that one, that was what sprung to mind when you were talking about that.
Yeah.
Was just how much time they had to spend in the makeup chair and how much that also impacted like the actors' lives. Because they would have to get up at like 5 in the morning and be sitting in that makeup chair to be ready to go maybe by mid-morning.
I saw
their stuff.
Yeah. I saw like I've seen a couple behind the scenes of like The Grinch and like X-Men, like where Jennifer Lawrence had to be in the makeup for a long time. Rebecca Romaine from X-Men, they're playing Mystique. Like they both had to sit in the chair for like 8 or 9 hours before they even got to get on set. And it was like, it's crazy.
Yeah, they did not want to do this.
Yeah, I feel
and it's like, that's cool. I completely get why they were like, maybe we make her half human so we don't have to do that so much.
Right. Up next, we have Charlie Barnett as Jord Fender, a by-the-book Jedi Knight and Temple Guardian. Okay, I like that.
Okay. He's featured pretty prominently in the promotional material, so
I mean, he got a Black Series figure, so I have to assume he's going to be in the show as much as
he's
he
gonna
can.
be a big deal.
Yeah,
What
so
else about him is of interest to us, Bradley?
that he's a hot man? Like, what else would be interesting?
I think you and I have discussed this. He is a hot man, but he's also a hot gay man.
Oh, yes. I think
Charlie
he's a,
Barnett, who's playing him, is openly gay.
yes, he's a homosexual. So it's okay that we're like objectifying him, okay? He's one of us.
It's okay to think he's hot. He's one of
Yes.
us. He's also
Okay.
hot, though. God,
Ugh.
there's so many hot people in the show. This is the problem, Bradley. There's so many hot people in this show. It's insane. I feel bad, right, for all of my bisexual and pansexual friends because they're having a time with this right now. It's like
Yes.
Hades all over again. Everyone is hot. That is a problem.
No, I think this character, my kind of like mini theory here is that he's kind of representing like kind of like just the Jedi act a certain way, do certain things. Like, you know how everybody's biggest problem with this show is that, well, they've never seen a Sith in 1,000 years. Because
Actually,
that's what they said in
everybody's
The Phantom
biggest
Menace.
problem with this show is the distinct lack of cisgendered heterosexual white men on this. There is
that's right.
one. We'll get to him. There's at least one on the cast list.
Oh yeah, he's like not even a main character too.
But the fact that there's only one is the actual problem people are having with this show.
So yeah, I think he's just going to be like representing, you know, like, oh, the complacency of the Jedi kind of thing. Like that's his role. He's supposed to, like, it says by the book Jedi Knight. So I guess what it means is kind of like he's going to be the one who's going to be like, there's no such thing as Sith. They have been extinct like forever. Like they don't exist, blah, blah, blah. And then he's going to get a very rude awakening when they all see the red blade at one point in time.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. And unlike a lot of the internet, I actually have faith that they will explain this adequately. But it will be interesting to see how they reconcile the fact that the Jedi can't learn that the Sith are around, or if they do, it doesn't make it up to the Council, or the Council covers it up. Yeah, this is a thing that like the Council does in the High Republic. I'm not going to spoil too much, but I will say the Jedi Council has historically, they have covered things up for reasons.
Yeah, I feel like it's either going to be a cover-up situation or it's going to be one of those things where they're like, well, technicality, this person is not a real Sith. This is a one-time evil Force user, blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean? Like they're going to make up rules.
In Legends, that happened.
Okay.
This is I read the Darth Bane trilogy recently, and Leslie Headland, who's the showrunner, has stated that she has pulled multiple things from Legends, like inspiration, either direct references or inspiration. When I read Darth Bane, the second book, Rule of Two, that is how the book ends. Spoilers for Darth Bane, but that is how the book ends. They basically trick the Jedi into thinking this one random guy is like the last insane Sith, and the actual Sith get away.
Oh, okay. So I feel like that's definitely
in
what's
Legends that has happened. So in these books that these chuds online keep quoting as saying that couldn't possibly happen, that does in fact happen.
Okay.
And I am personally incredibly smug for having actually read these books because I know this. And they only learned it from lore YouTube videos because they can't read. But before I become absurdly negative for no fucking reason about dumbasses online misciting my holy scriptures of the EU in order to bash the woke, like the bunch of mouth-breathing fucking morons that they are, please bring us into the next person so we can talk about this character. Because I have a lot of thoughts about this character that I can't say.
Okay. Next up, we have Jodie Turner-Smith as Mother Anissa, a leader of a coven of Force witches.
If you listen to me, listener, I'm going to phrase this very delicately. If you are familiar with the High Republic Phase 2, and you are familiar with my opinions of the High Republic Phase 2, and you also saw the words Mother and Leader of Coven of Force Witches, and you also watched the trailers, you will know how I'm approaching this character. which is to say with great trepidation. The mother, you are my enemy, you are my foe. Meet me in the Denny's parking lot. I just want to talk. Mother Anastasia, I'm watching you. I'm fucking watching you. I don't want to see any Force will be free bullshit. I don't want to see any Dalna bullshit. I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it. But we also do know, I think, that some of the High Republic authors were involved in this.
Oh, they were. Okay.
Some of them had seen it early. And at least one of them, I can't remember who, mentioned being involved in a project like a couple of years ago that they couldn't talk about. Presumably it's this. Presumably they also consulted on this to make sure.
I don't see why they wouldn't. Yeah, I feel like it's. I don't know why they wouldn't bring them in just to be like, yeah.
Certain other High Republic things that were announced that I'm not going to mention quite famously took the High Republic architects by surprise.
Oh.
They didn't know it was coming. This one, I feel like they worked with the original team to make it so that this felt like a logical follow-up to the publishing initiative and where it's currently at. I wonder if we're going to mention the Stormwall in this.
Now,
they must have definitely talked to Justina Ireland because of the next person on the list that we're going down. Because I feel like they would have definitely talked to Justina Ireland about this.
I do have a question though.
Okay.
For normal people who don't read Legends.
Okay.
Well, you're gonna have to explain.
I've also had sex, by the way. Like, these two things can coexist.
Not if you read Legends.
I definitely have done both. I have definitely talked to people about Star Wars Legends and then had sex with them.
Okay. Oh, I don't believe that.
That has happened.
So explain to the general audience the difference between Force Witches and then the Night Sisters.
The Night Sisters are very specific group of Force Witches on Dathomir.
Okay.
This is when they say Force Witches, we don't know much about this group yet. But in Legends, there was different like Force sects of different Force users. This most became, I think, a deal in Fate of the Jedi. I can't remember if it was as big of a deal before that there were these other groups around there. Definitely in like canon in the High Republic Phase 2 with the Convocation on Jeddah. And if you also listen to For Light and Dice, a TTRPG podcast set in the High Republic era, the other Force sects become relevant in the second season. One of the crew members who joins the crew in the second season is a member of a different Force group called the Order of Sight Voltaire. So this Force group of Force Witches we don't know a lot about, but we do know there's different groups of them, and that goes all the way back to Legends and like the Yang-Ti monks and all of that.
Sure.
So this is yet another one of those groups. One of the fun things about Star Wars is how it's constantly like we're making up a new cult.
Right. Let's just add more.
You get a cult, and you get a cult, and everybody gets a cult.
Well, I guess it's more realistic. I mean, like, there can't just be one cult in the galaxy of billions of people. Like,
it's not just two Force-using groups.
Exactly.
There's
so it makes
more
sense.
than one.
Sure.
And then, like, in our real world, there aren't even, like, there's more than one group of multiple of the major religions. Like, most of the major religions have different denominations and different, like, sects within their own broader religion, and some of those different offshoot branches fucking hate each other.
There you go.
And we've had particularly a lot of medieval history. A lot of medieval history in Europe is based around different groups of Christianity that do not fucking like each other very much at all.
So maybe these Force Witches don't like the Jedi Order, and maybe there's.
I suspect this is a case.
Yeah, I feel like there's a.
But we'll see. I feel like they're taking inspiration from the Path of the Open Hand in Phase 2, but I don't want to talk too much about the Path of the Open Hand because Bradley, you haven't read Phase 2 yet. But I promise you in particular, because you and I had one very similar thing in our upbringing. So I'm going to be real curious to see what you think of the Path of the Open Hand.
Yeah, good little tease there. Up next, we have what I'm assuming is going to be Charles's favorite character in the entire show. Rebecca Henderson is playing Vernestra Rowe, a senior member of the Jedi Order who rose to prominence as a young prodigy.
The fucking confidence of Leslie Headland.
Yes.
I love her so much. To be like, not only am I going to put Vernestra Rowe from the High Republic books into this show, but I'm going to cast my wife as Vernestra Rowe.
That is pretty It's pretty insane, honestly, if you think about it.
That's a power move. That's Vernestra. Yeah, Vernestra Rowe, if you are not familiar with the High Republic books, is a major character in particularly the middle grade and young adult novels. She kind of flips back and forth between being the protagonist of the middle grade novel and being the protagonist of the young adult novels. She is a prodigy who became a Jedi Knight at the age of 16 and then promptly proceeded to have burnout gifted kid syndrome for multiple books afterwards. I did not care that much about her in the first phase. She was nice. She was fun when she showed up. I liked her dynamic with Wreath and with Silvestri and all of that in the young adult book she was in. But this latest young adult novel, Defy the Storm, I'm a Vernestra Rowe stan now. I'm so fucking excited to see her in this show. And Bradley knows nothing about her, so it'll be really fun to talk about this show with Bradley, who knows nothing about Vernestra.
All I know is that she has a crazy lightsaber, and that's
She
it.
has a light whip. The light whip, which when you listen to next week's episode, I will go on a rant about the light whip.
Yeah.
And specifically people trying to tell me that they invented the light whip for the show or
Sure.
trying to make it sound like it's a new thing. No, the light whip's from 1985.
I love it.
And she, I think, might be the first person in canon to have it back. I don't think we've seen one.
Right.
I don't think the Zygerian whips work quite the same way. This is a thing I need to check, actually. Light whip Star Wars. What has it been in canon? Let me see. This is her light whip is the only light whip.
Got it. Only canonical light whip. Got it.
Only canonical light whip.
I like that. And it's purple.
Yes, and it is purple, and it is awesome. Oh, no, I'm actually incorrect. According to Wikipedia, light whips were first canonically mentioned in the Fantasy Flight Games sourcebook Endless Vigil, which was published in 2016. It does contain elements from both Legends and canon continuities.
Okay. But this is the first we've seen it.
This is the first. She's the first in-universe example that we have of a light whip.
Sure.
She's also older now, so she's risen to prominence in the order.
Right. And so how old is she in the books? You said she's like a teen?
She's like 16 to 17 in the books.
And not to be connecting this, but so that means
she's like 150 years old.
I was like, is Yoda gonna show up? What's happening here?
Weird that Yoda has not been in these trailers.
I'm thinking he's gonna be in the show, right? I feel like that's the thing they're trying to keep
He has to show up at some point. No, they're gonna pull out some fucking random council member like Yariel Poof.
Yeah. Yeah, some random.
Yariel Poof's gonna be in this.
I mean, I don't mind if he shows up, but it's just funny.
What is the name of my fucking Oppo Rancisis, my fucking enemy?
Is that the one with the snake body?
That's the one with the snake body.
Okay, yeah.
I have personal beef with that man. It is on site with that man. It is on site for reasons.
Up next, we have Dean Charles Chapman playing character.
IMDb says he's playing the character of Torben, but Wikipedia has not updated that source for him.
Because I think on the Star Wars website it says he's playing Master Torben or something, which I thought was weird because he's a child, but he has a Padawan braid in the trailer. So
he does have a Padawan braid.
So it's wait.
And also
there's some funny stuff going on there.
There's some funny stuff
with
going
that
on
character.
There.
Yeah. So he's my other red herring character.
There is a character in the main continuity, the main High Republic publishing initiative called Master Torben Buck. So it might be getting a little bit of confusion on that. It's also Wikipedia doesn't even have him listed
as his character's name.
As his character. So
I feel like there's funny business going on here.
I also feel like there's funny business going on here, and I feel like
there's funny business.
We don't know anything about him except he's in we see a couple of shots of him in the trailers.
Yeah.
We see what looks like him being
possessed or something.
Yeah. No, yeah, he is listed as Torben on StarWars.com.
Okay.
Let's see what Star Wars. Also, there's a little droid named Pip who we're not going to talk about. Yeah, Torben. It says Torben is a Jedi Master on StarWars.com, but he does have a Padawan braid.
Okay, so either flashbacks or something funny business is happening.
There's some funny business happening.
Okay.
But anyway, Dean Charles Chapman, King Tommen, is here playing this role to hopefully be remembered for doing something besides being Tommen.
Right. Yeah, I'm hoping that
Although he
this is a
was
really
in
breakout role for him.
1917. Well, he's virtually unfucking recognizable in 1917, the movie.
Oh, I was like, he is not that old, Charles. So I was like, what are you talking about?
Well, it's just he's doing such a different thing in 1917.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, I feel like this is I'm hoping for him this will be like a breakout role kind of thing. Even though, I mean, I feel like Game of Thrones is also kind of a breakout thing, but I feel like also this is more of a, it looks to be more of a prominent kind of feature. So I feel like he might get more from this.
I'm hoping so. He's a really good actor. Speaking of really good actors, who's next?
Up next, we have
this is the structure of our episode, by the way. We just decided we're going through the cast list and using that to talk about the Acolyte.
Up next is Jonas Suotamo. As Kelnaka, a Wookiee Jedi who lives a solitary life.
Yeah, it's the guy who played Chewbacca.
Yeah, he's the one who replaced Peter Mayhew. So he is the
he's the Wookiee. He's back. He's being a Wookiee. Yeah. He's being a Wookiee Jedi this time. That is not Buriaga.
Right.
Cool. We've seen a shot in the trailer of him actually fighting with the lightsaber. So
I think it's gonna be cool. He's gonna be a cool character.
I'm ready.
For sure.
I'm ready.
I'm ready for it. And then up next we have the one and the only Carrie-Anne Moss as Indara, a Jedi Master proficient in Force Fu fighting.
Wow, just they got Trinity to be in this.
Trinity with a lightsaber.
Trinity with a lightsaber.
Everybody wants to see that.
Her performance too, like she was in the clip that I saw on the screen at the end of Phantom Menace. Her performance in this role is fucking rad. Like I saw her as like she's already like easily one of my favorite. If anything happens to her, I will be pissed.
I'm hoping that like they keep her to the very end. Like I want her to I don't want her to die. Like I don't want this because you know how the premise or like what they've been saying in the trailer or whatever is like someone is going to
someone is murdering Jedi. Yes,
murdering Jedi, and it's like I'm like she gets attacked. I mean she doesn't die based on the clip, but doesn't mean
we do see her lightsaber like on the ground. Like May walking away and her lightsaber's on the ground, but there's not like blood or anything on it. So like what is going on? I feel like the opening line of the first trailer for the Acolyte is don't trust your eyes can deceive you. And that's the problem with trying to speculate anything about this show is it's literally set up to lie to us. Consistently.
Yeah, I feel like there's no good narrator here. Like I feel like everything we're seeing is a lie. Everything we're seeing is out of context and we don't know what's happening. Like it's because it's a murder mystery kind of thing. So it's like we're never going to get the true answer until probably the very last episode, which is frustrating but also exciting.
I'm ready. I'm ready for this. I'm ready for this ride. I do also have to mention the presence of Abigail Thorne in this.
Okay.
Abigail Thorne, better known as Philosophy Tube, the YouTube channel. So we actually have two trans people that are actually confirmed in the show. Amanda Listenberg is non-binary, and Abigail Thorne is a trans woman.
Okay.
This is also a thing that people on the internet are mad about, but I don't give a fuck.
Of course.
I don't give a fuck. So very cool that Abigail Thorne is in this playing Ensign Eurus is the character. Okay. But we can also see her in the background of the Force Witches. Like she's one of the Force Witches, so like what's going on there?
So maybe she's like a secret plant.
I wonder if that's what's going on. I don't know. Maybe she's undercover in the Force Witches.
Okay.
Who knows? I do also have to shout out, I'm just looking right below the cast list at the directed by and written by. Again, we're not going to go through all of them just because we're going to cover the show and we'll talk about who directed and wrote each episode. But I do have to shout out the fact that each episode has different writers. Thank fucking God.
That is kind of nice. It's like, so does that mean there is a writer's room?
There is a writer's room on this show.
There
are some writers who are like original trilogy fans, or some who are prequels fans, or some who are sequels. There's at least one writer who had never seen a Star Wars before getting hired to write this show. So shout out to Leslie Headland for assembling an actual writer's room of many people.
I love that. I mean, good for her. Also, the fact that she was able to pitch this entire series to Lucasfilm and then actually get picked. Like, you know how we hear a lot of people who are like, oh, they're approached by Disney. And then so far, it seems like she's the only one that I've heard of that has approached
Jon
Disney.
Favreau was the only other one that I can think of.
Yeah.
that wasn't approaching from like the angle of having already worked on something.
Right.
Because Andor is a Rogue One spinoff, and Tony Gilroy had already worked on Andor on Rogue One before he came in to work on Andor. Obi-Wan Kenobi, I don't know if they pitched Obi-Wan Kenobi or that was internal and they just found Deborah Chow for it. But yeah, Leslie Headland very specifically came in, pitched this show, and Lucasfilm was like, yeah, we'll take it. And we know a lot of people come in and pitch Star Wars and they don't get it. And this one, apparently her presentation was really good. Apparently her pitch was great. Because they're also talking about like maybe doing multiple seasons of this. Like, I feel like this is going to be the show that they're eyeballing to maybe take over from The Mandalorian as being their like Disney Plus thing.
Right. Their standard show. That's just
I
the thing that brings you back to making the subscription again and again.
Right.
Yeah.
I feel like they're angling away from putting out a variety of content on the platform, and they're more trying to just do short bursts of content. But I was talking to a friend of mine who worked at Disney the other day, and I did ask him about the time slot thing.
Yeah.
You know how they've done it to where now it's at a more reasonable time slot?
Mm-hmm.
He said that's because of advertisers. He says that advertisers like when a lot of people log onto a platform and view an ad all at once.
Interesting.
They more prefer that. So having the show be at a reasonable time to where it's basically event television again. Everything old is new again. The streaming bubble has burst, and we are now back to cable again, and advertisers want event television. And this is event television.
Right.
And so now we're getting it at a more reasonable time. But I also feel like, I feel like they're doing more licensing, and I feel like they're doing more like... They've also now combined it with Hulu. And so you can have kind of original content that spans both platforms. You no longer have to be putting out stuff for Disney Plus, because Disney Plus is kind of there to house the IP stuff, and it's kind of there for your kid who wants to watch Frozen 18,000 times. You can just load it up on Disney Plus.
Right. And now that they're doing all these, like, I don't even want to call them sequels, because they're like threequels and fourquels. Like, they're just doing all these extra movies for all these classic stuff that kids are obsessed with. And, they're just keep pumping out all this content, and it's like you got to have a place to house all that IP without but the problem is the original content that they're pushing on Disney Plus is not as good as the stuff that's on like Hulu and stuff, and it's just like
that's where I think the combination came in. Is you would combine, if you combine the two, then you get the cross-platform visibility. And I do think that the big draw for adults, if you're looking at new signups, if you're looking at people that are coming into Disney Plus who do not have kids, something like The Acolyte is going to be that draw. Or I think they put a lot of money and they put a lot of eggs in the Marvel basket, and that didn't really work out for them because the Marvel shows didn't go well.
Right. Yeah. And I think that also the bad part about the Marvel shows was that they were required viewing. I think that was the major problem with the shows, is that if you didn't watch the shows, then you were missing something that was going to be in the movie later on that month or whatever. And you're missing the 50 film, saga that you're going to miss one little thing, and then you can't get the whole story. And then it's like, nobody wants
I think Avengers Endgame fundamentally broke that franchise.
Yeah, I think so.
I think that Avengers Endgame was a nice idea for a finale if it had actually been the finale.
Right.
That was the big problem with Avengers Endgame.
Not the launching pad for a whole nother 20 years of content.
Well, now, so it used to be with the first two Avengers movies, the idea was you could watch the movies and get context for who these characters were. And then they had their own internal arc within the Avengers movies. You could watch the Avengers without having watched Captain America, the First Avenger, or the first two Iron Man movies, or Thor, or any of those. In fact, it seemed to forget that The Incredible Hulk even happened. It didn't want to even acknowledge that movie. Whereas Endgame set up the idea that, oh no, now anything's fair game. And not only could we pull from it, but we could continue and pay it off in another movie. And that set up the idea of, well, if you want to be a Marvel fan, you have to watch everything, even stuff that's not for you. I think She-Hulk would not have gotten as much vitriol as it did if shitty Marvel fans didn't feel like they needed to watch it, because it might turn out to be like She-Hulk might be in the Avengers 5 or whatever.
Right.
I feel like with Star Wars, the big advantage Star Wars has, And they kind of flirted with the idea of doing this kind of Marvel style thing with the Mandoverse, and that didn't really work. So they've kind of dropped it. Like, they've basically announced a finale to it to be like, no, guys, we promise this is going to end. But I feel like where Star Wars has the benefit is you can kind of skip around and you can do whatever you want. And like, the more you do the movies, then the more you can flesh that out over time with other content. And then you have eras and you can tell different stories within those eras. You don't necessarily have to stick with the same characters. You can just make up new characters.
Which is what this is doing, essentially. I mean, this is
Andor has like what, one character in it?
Yeah,
from the original movies.
2, maybe. Yeah,
it's Mon Mothma
and Andor.
Cassian Andor's not in the original trilogy.
Oh, in the original. Oh, okay.
In the original trilogy, the only character that turns up in Andor that I can think of off the top of my head that's in the Yularen. Yularen is in the original trilogy. With no speaking lines in one scene in A New Hope.
Right.
But other than that, it's just Mon Mothma, and that's it. You can do a show like that. You can do a show like the first season of The Mandalorian that didn't really have anybody well-known in it from Star Wars up to that point.
Well, I think that's where The Acolyte is going to shine, because it's something that anybody can watch. Like, you do not have to have watched a single Star Wars before this. There's nothing so far that we can tell that there's anything in this that even remotely is required viewing. Like, it's just a brand new, fresh thing. Yeah, maybe like till you understand what Star Wars is, you might need to watch the original trilogy or something. But like, even if you've never seen a Star Wars, like, you could watch this fresh as a brand new person coming into the franchise and understand what's going on. Like, it's just a brand new thing. And I think that's where this is going to shine if they keep making this show. And there's a second season or a third season or whatever. I mean, it could spin off into let's do shows only set in the High Republic era. And then people will go, oh, well, if you want a little enhanced viewing, you can read the books too, or you can do this. But hopefully the shows will spin off this new kind of trend of like, oh, we're only going to do the High Republic era now, not the Skywalker era. I don't think
they'll ever say that they're only going to do a particular era, but they may put more emphasis on an era. So they may have more shows set in the High Republic era and like one or two that set elsewhere. But I also know that I have a sneaking suspicion that within the next couple of years, I suspect almost certainly they may announce it while we're in Japan.
I was thinking the same thing.
They're going to do some sequel era stuff. And they're going to do it because the Rey movie is coming out. And they're going to want to flesh out that era. Because they're going to want to start setting up. Because the sequel era is a little sparse right now. They had kind of their own little mini stuff going on, and Resistance Reborn was kind of a finale to that. Resistance Reborn kind of paid off the Poe Dameron comics, and it paid off the Bloodline novel and a couple of other things. But it's a little sparse. It's not as filled out as some of the other eras, but I do feel like they are going to go in and they're going to make more sequel content to lead up to the Rey movie. But even the movies are kind of skipping around, because what we've got: Rey, Dawn of the Jedi, Heir to the Empire, Lando, and a fifth movie that I've forgotten. I know there's 5. What is the fifth one? What's the fucking fifth movie? I forgot. I'm going to remember it as soon as we stop recording.
Okay, because
as soon as we stop recording, I'm going to remember what the fifth movie. Mandalorian and Grogu.
Oh. I get that confused with Heir to the Empire, because it's like...
I also mentally get it confused with Heir to the Empire.
Yeah, that's why I was confused. If it's not, like, already its own thing. But no, so I guess I want to ask you, before we keep going too far into the future of Star Wars, sticking back to the Acolyte. All right, so what are your crazy theories? What are your final like guesses for the show? Even though we know nothing, I mean, it's just like this is your chance to shine, Charles, and prove to everyone how smart you are. Like, what's happening in the show?
There's this one Sith Lord who I can't remember his name, and I kind of tried to Google it a little bit.
Yeah,
who's like an art collector. I feel like he's going to get mentioned. My broader thing is that some random Sith Lords from Legends are going to get name dropped.
Okay.
And it's not going to be the ones that you would think. It's not going to be like Darth Bane. It's not going to be Darth Treya, even though Leslie Headland has said Darth Treya was an inspiration. It's going to be something like fucking weird, like Darth Zana or Darth Vectivus or Vergier. Like, somebody's going to get a name drop earlier on, and it's going to be wild. That's one of my insane theories. That would be the insane theory I'm
would
going
be
to
the
go
insane
with.
theory?
Is,
Okay.
is we're going to get some random Sith Lord name drop that's going to be from Legends that nobody's going to fucking know.
That seems like a solid guess, honestly.
Pretty solid guess. My other insane theory is, yeah, we've already talked about it. One of the random Jedi Council members is going to show up, like Appa Rancisis or Yariel Poof or Yoda.
For sure.
At some point. Also, I think we might get an Emery Kantaros mention. We don't have time to get into who that is.
I think also, I know it's supposed to be set 100 years before, but I feel like, do you think that they're going to try to set up Palpy, like in some shape or form, in like either his parents or
So here's
something?
the thing. Here's the thing. I read Darth Plagueis recently.
Sure.
And follow me here. So in Legends, there's Palpatine, who is the apprentice of Darth Plagueis.
Right.
Plagueis was the apprentice of a guy named Darth Tenebrous, who was a Bith Sith Lord. Tenebris's master, whose name we don't know, did something to the dark side of the Force that created some sort of tear in the Force. And that was the first time in a millennia that the Jedi were able to sense the dark side like that. And that was multiple Sith Lords before Palpatine. That was Tenebris's unknown Sith master. I think it's like one line from Darth Plagueis that sets this up. But I did some math and making some assumptions about lifespans. That would be around this point. So it's entirely possible we may get a mention of Darth Tenebris.
Okay.
Somewhere in this. He's obviously not the Sith Lord, because that's not a Bith. But it's possible we may get a Tenebris mention.
Okay. Yeah, because I don't know all the, the different Siths before, so it's kind of like one of those things where it's like, could they connect it? Probably. Or is there, as of right now, only Plagueis is canon? Like, we don't have anything after that, right?
Plagueis, Bane, Xana are all canon.
Okay.
If we're talking like pre-Sith Lords, Revan, I think those might be the only ones that we know of.
So we'll see if they try to connect it at all to little Palpy.
Little Palpy.
Little Palpy.
They're definitely showing like how Palpy happens.
No, for sure. But I don't know if they're going to directly be like, oh, I'm going to go to Naboo today and go.
Too early.
No. Yeah. Okay.
Too early.
Okay.
Although we might
Maybe
find out
4.
some stuff about like Exegol and the Sith Eternal.
Yeah.
Like we might get some hints of what's going on there.
Yeah.
But it's also kind of implied throughout everything that Palpatine he wasn't really into the Sith Eternal. He sort of found the Sith Eternal, like hanging out on Exegol. True. And then was like, oh, I can totally use this.
Okay. I like it. I feel like my only other theory you don't want me to say, so I'm going to not say it.
What's your theory? What's your theory, Bradley?
My theory is on the logo, and my theory is about Amanda Steinberg and the poster.
You think that they're playing twins?
I think that's definitely confirmed at this point for me.
We'll see. We will see. That is a theory that a lot of people have.
Something is itching in my brain. It's why is she on the poster twice? Why is the O double in the Acolyte? Why, like, there's so many questions.
Why does the subtitle of the trailers say Osha instead of May when she's delivering lines?
Just saying, Well, that could also just be like she changed her name to be an assassin. But
this is also true. This is also a thing the character could have done.
Yeah, I don't want to necessarily use the subtitle one as like a thing, because that could just be a mistranslation / it's a different.
Well,
she has a different name
always,
at one point,
always two there are.
Always two there are, and that's where they get that saying from.
Well, they get that from Darth Bane.
I know, I'm just kidding. But yeah, no. I don't know. I have a feeling that like she's pretending to be her sister, and because they're being so cagey about it, and I don't know. That's my theory. But if I'm wrong, then that's fine. But if I'm not, then suck it.
Well, you and I are going to find out in 8 days. The audience is going to find this out tomorrow. And we will cover it in
like a month and a half.
When are we going to cover this? This is an excellent question.
Yeah, that's what we should
Let me look at our most viewed document, which is our podcast schedule. It looks like we are going to cover this probably in September.
Ugh. So Struggle Bus is so real.
The Struggle Bus is real. We're gonna do the Acolyte, and then we're gonna do Tales of the Empire, and then we're gonna do Skeleton Crew, and then we're gonna be caught up.
Okay, I'm fine with that. Like, as long as we can catch up. It's just I feel bad for everybody who. Most of the reason why you're listening to this now is because I felt bad that you have to wait until September to when we cover the Acolyte because we
It's gonna
were
be
so
so
excited
hard.
about this
It's gonna be
show.
so hard to not talk, but that's okay. We've got some banger Bad Batch episodes coming.
That's
So
true.
I mentioned in the
Right.
upcoming episode that episodes 4 and episode 5 of the Bad Batch are the low point for us,
Right.
and it's pretty solid bangers for the rest of the season.
I agree. I think so.
So
A lot to
we
look forward to. Yeah.
we'll have fun. It'll be fun, and then we will cover the Acolyte. And I do personally, I'm kind of interested to cover the Acolyte after it's out. After
That's
we've
true.
got the
We
whole
do want to
thing.
give it a full kind of like let it sit for a second and mull before we talk about it because I feel like this is going to be the kind of show where they're going to keep revealing stuff every episode and everybody's going to be like, that's fucking dumb. Why do they do that? And then they're just going to explain it in the next episode.
It's going to be the
So,
Reva
yeah.
thing again.
Yeah.
Do you remember when Reva, like, when episodes 1 and 2 of Obi-Wan Kenobi premiered and a bunch of dumbasses online were like, how does Reva know that Vader is Anakin Skywalker? That makes no sense. That's a plot hole. And then in episode 5, Obi-Wan's like, wait, how do you know that Vader is Anakin Skywalker? Oh my god, this is an actual revelatory moment of the character. And all of those dumbasses were fucking silent.
Yeah.
Because it was never ever about plot holes, and it was never ever about consistency in the show, and it was never ever about the quality of the writing. It's the fact that there was a black woman doing things on screen and they didn't like that.
And now I'm worried for my theory because now that would mean there's 2 black women on screen doing something.
Oh, there's more. There's more. There's multiple in this show, and the people online do not like that.
And
they do
should.
not like that.
Good for them.
Bad for them. Bad for them. No, it's the vitriol around the show has been stupid, and I'm very excited for it to come out. And I love how diverse the cast is. I'm very excited to watch this show.
Same.
All right, that's all that I have about the. I feel like we've done what we can for the Acolyte.
Well, we can and not completely go for 4 hours being like, well, in the trailer at this moment they did this, and that's obviously
Which, to be clear, I can do. I can do
Right.
that if I want to. We have chosen not to do that because that's not going to be a very interesting episode.
Agree.
However, it is time for pluggables. Bradley does a bunch of reality TV, and you can find him on Peacock and Bravo. We do one at a time. The current one is The Circle, Season 6 on Netflix, of which you can marathon the entire series if you feel like it. Or, like me, you can just keep watching Elite, because Bradley desperately wants me to get to this messy twink in Season 4. Speaking of messy twinks, I write gay thriller novels. You can find them on Amazon Kindle, called Beach House Studios. It's about messy twinks doing porn, and there's murder in it. It's a lot of fun. Also, you can find me on the Star Wars TTRPG podcast, For Light and Dice, set in the High Republic era, DM'd by Chris from Darkside Divas, with myself, Hope from J Guys and Jedi, Jess from RuPaul's Pod Race, and our friends Colton and Robin. And that's our pluggables. Yay! Run the socials! Thank you for listening to this episode of Gold Squadron Gaze. Did Charles fuck something up? Email us at goldsquadrongaze@gmail.com to let us know. You can also find us on Twitter at @GoldSquadGaze, and you can find us on TikTok and Instagram at @GoldSquadronGaze. You can also find us on YouTube at our Gold Squadron Gaze YouTube channel, where we post full episodes of this show. Finally, if you liked the show, don't forget to rate us and give us a review on your favorite podcast platform. That allows other people to find our show. As always, thank you for listening to Gold Squadron Gaze, and we'll see you next week. Bradley's on the phone, doing his phone work thing. Bradley's on the phone. I should have pulled out Persona 5. I could have cleared the entire fucking palace while he's doing this. I could have gone through an entire week of school, because that's what I spend my evenings doing now, is going to Japanese high school. Although on Sundays I get to visit the juice stand. That's fun.